Hello and good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to this demo session on SAP Business Technology Platform Training with CAPM on Cloud Foundry and SAP Cloud Platform. As you might have heard the news, the latest name or the new name of SAP Cloud Platform is now SAP Business Technology Platform. SAP Business Technology Platform is now the central heart of SAP's technology platform. And this is what is becoming the next big thing when it comes to both application development or integration development. In this demo session, I'm going to take you through the basic introduction of what is Cloud Foundry, what is Cloud Application Programming Model, and then followed by a simple use case, which we will do it in the live system. So with that, let's get started with introduction of who is this course for. So meet Alex. Alex is a software developer, a technical advocate, and a SAP enthusiast. What are all the main job roles of Alex? So Alex is a 30-year-old technical advocate, MS from computer science engineering. And what are all his needs? He is basically willing to develop and design and architect systems and provide technical guidance for development for end-to-end solutions to his company. The skills which Alex has is mainly in the direction of software industry, which includes ERP, data structure, programming languages, cloud, and machine learning. Alex's aim is to provide best-in-class software solutions and proposals to the client. The area of functioning which Alex works is predominantly on S/4HANA, Fiori, Java, Node, MongoDB, and Cloud. These are all the main areas Alex is willing to work going forward. So perhaps now you can relate yourself with Alex. And if that is your goal and that is your aim, then you are at the right place. In this training, we are going to do hardcore development on SAP Business Technology Platform utilizing different concepts and frameworks, including tools and services which are offered. You will also learn the powerful DevOps techniques and also CI and CD integrations. So let's get started with introduction of what is Cloud Foundry. So once again, you can see Alex here, perhaps with the spectacles. And what Alex want now is to start development or develop applications end to end. So what are all the needs of Alex as a developer to start developing applications? Imagine yourself 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when you were probably in a college or just as a fresher and wanted to develop something or build an application. What were your needs? So the very first thing is you would need the foundation. The foundation includes networking, storage, servers, virtualization, and operating system. All of these you would basically need to procure the hardware so that you can build powerful applications on top of this hardware. Then, as a next part of the story, you would also need the database, middleware, and runtimes. For example, today, if I try to run a C program in Notepad file, I will not be able to do that because it requires a C compiler. On the same fashion, if you would like to develop a application using Java or ABAP or Node.js, you would need also the runtime which can convert your code to machine language or assembly language. So that is what the next very important thing for a developer is when they want to develop applications. And finally, once you decided which framework and which technique to use, you would have your database or data design plus application and services which you would focus to develop. Now, imagine if you all of this which you need to develop is to be arranged by yourself. How do you do that? Or if you want to speed up the development, perhaps you can go back and say, hey, I'm going to rent out all of these bottom things which are in the blue color. So can somebody give me this out of the box? And that's where the concept of infrastructure as a service comes into picture. Today's world, you can go back to internet. and you can ask Amazon, Azure, GCP, or Alibaba Group to give you a computer on the internet. You can go back and say, hey, I would need a computer. I don't want to buy a computer by paying, let's say, $40,000, $30,000 with maybe 1 petabyte of hard disk and 500 gigs of RAM. Rather, I would like to rent it out quickly as soon as possible. And that is in minutes, you can get it with just paying $5 an hour or $10 an hour. Wow. You get the speed, and you also do not have to do an upfront investment. This is the first offering what cloud offers, which is called infrastructure as a service. There are players in the market like Azure, AWS, GCP, and Alibaba. At the same time, what the developer would say, can I also get the rest of the things on the rent as well? So can somebody also give me the runtime, middleware, and database as well on the rent? And that's where you see you can go with platform as a service. So Pivotal is a company which is offering you a platform as a service, which and the offering name is called Cloud Foundry. So Cloud Foundry is a open standard for implementing platform as a service by Pivotal. In our next episode, I am going to take you to the history of Pivotal, how Pivotal was formed, how what are all the different things which Pivotal usually do, and how as exactly SAP adopted the Pivotal's Cloud Foundry to build their own platform as a service offering. So then Alex is happy. He get what all he need to get started with the development quickly and without doing a very high upfront investment. And if the idea kicks in, then perhaps Alex will go and probably can scale this application to even millions of users in no time. So as a developer or as a technical consultant, what Alex needs to really focus on is only the application and the data. So what Alex does, Alex goes to Cloud Foundry and Alex says, hey, I would want to use this platform where I get everything out of the box and I will also get the infrastructure out of the box in no time, and what I will just focus is on the application and the data. Now, how is this different from SAP Cloud Foundry? So now you know Cloud Foundry is basically a platform as a service definition for implementing a platform which provides you development support for runtime, middleware, and database. What SAP did is they have taken this image of open standard for platform as a service, and then they have added some extra features like SAP proprietary database, so-called HANA, or SAP ASC database. So also additionally, they have added runtime for UI5. They have added HANA deployment infrastructure. They have added a lot of communication services, destination services on top. So perhaps you can go back and easily integrate also your SAP solutions when you're developing an application in Cloud Foundry. So that is what exactly you get with SAP Cloud Foundry. SAP Cloud Foundry includes the open definition from Pivotal as platform as a service on top additional offerings from SAP. Now, what as a developer you do is you do not really care about rest of the things. So you get fully ready landscape with reusable services to get started with your development, and you more focus only on data and the application. That will be our main goal. So this simplifies a lot of things for you as a developer, and you get variety of runtimes, be it Python, Node.js. You go more and more closer to open technologies, open stack, and any kind of development you can take on the SAP Cloud Foundry. In fact, SAP Cloud Foundry also offers ABAP as a runtime, so-called ABAP on cloud. So that is also an additional feature which you would find in SAP Cloud Foundry, but not on Pivotal Cloud Foundry. So let's go ahead and see what are the advantages which this developer is getting. So first of all, lower total cost of ownership. You don't have to go back and do an upfront investment, which is very high, and you can quickly get started. You may be an entrepreneur who have an idea on a startup. Perhaps you can go back and start your ideas right away on Cloud Foundry without doing an upfront investment on large hardwares or servers. You get scalability. both horizontally and vertically. You can go back and say, hey, I would today have an application which is serving 1000 users. Tomorrow, maybe I want to go and support 5000 users. In no time, you can scale up to a multi-core CPU with hundreds of gigs of RAM with just a scalable option. In fact, both on the memory side and number of instances of an application you're running, you can scale, which is known as vertical and horizontal scale. Then you get a choice of technology. You are not coupled yourself to one technology or one type of architecture. Perhaps maybe you like Node.js, then you can go with Node.js. Maybe there is another feature you like from Java where you feel the Java could be a better choice for your technology. You can go with that. And you can build a complete microservice oriented application where you have different microservices built on different technologies, yet they remain integrated as a whole application. You get speed. You in no time you got a development environment which is fully ready without really depending on hardware or procurement of hardware. And then what next? You will also get the focus on only development, which is application and data, and rest all the things you can leave it up to the Cloud Foundry environment. Suppose you need a Go runtime, Google's Go language, or you want maybe a Python runtime, all of that will be taken care by the underlying platform as a service. You can innovate much faster without contaminating your stable core. Suppose your company implemented S4 HANA, and usually what in the past we used to do is develop bodies or extensions within the core, within the solutions, which sometimes disrupt your upgrades, or an upgrade disrupts your extensions. Yes, your code will break when your new upgrade is applied into the system, and you have to do a lot of maintenance there. What you can do is you can build a application outside your stable core by not contaminating it, yet remain integrated through the APIs. So these are all the benefits you get out of the box when you use SAP Cloud Foundry. So that is why SAP is emphasizing and recommending a lot of customers and partners to choose SAP Cloud Platform or Business Technology Platform as the preferred way of development going forward. And a lot of companies are, that is why getting attracted to the Cloud Foundry development on Business Technology Platform. So let's have a quick look at architecture of Cloud Foundry. So Cloud Foundry is a whole bunch of backing services. So here the infrastructure provider is one of these. You can go with AWS, Azure, or GCP. They will be taken care of networking, virtualization, hardware, and operating system. On top of it, you have the Cloud Foundry powered by SAP services like SAP Data Store Services. Some of these are offered directly from Cloud Foundry, like for example, PostgreSQL or MongoDB. And many of these data services, database as a service is also from SAP like SAP HANA. So you can run a complete HANA box on Cloud Foundry in no time. Then you get platform services related to analytics, integration, UGS statistics, user experience, security, collaboration, IoT, and machine learning. You got business services like commerce, localization, tax as a service, data quality, all as part of the software as a service offering. Then we have different programming model support. So you are not coupled with classical ABAP programming paradigm. You have a choice of option to go with either HTML5 or Java or Node.js or Python. And you can also install your own build packs into the Cloud Foundry to support maybe a different runtime. So this is what you get out of the box as part of the system as a whole. And on the left and right, you see you have your existing solutions, on-premise solutions and cloud solutions. You can integrate those solutions with Cloud Foundry using destination services or APIs using API Hub, so that you can still remain integrated with your course, and you can run your business along with both innovative way of developing in business technology platform and then classical way of developing using your existing solutions. So that's a broad architecture. With that, let me move on to the programming model. So now the main question is, as a developer, what is there for me? If I'm a developer and maybe the architecture is good, the thought process is good, but as a developer, what is there for me? If I'm a developer and I would like to develop an application, many a times I have this question that what is the right way of doing development? Do you have some standard practices? Is there some guideline? Is there some golden path for doing development? What is the correct suggestion or correct architecture to choose so that later on I should not suffer? So that's where SAP also come up with this concept of cloud application programming model. A cloud application programming model is nothing but it's a framework of languages, libraries, tools for building enterprise grade applications into the cloud platform or into business technology platform. The CAPM is based on the project's benefit from a primary focus on domain. So as a developer, it takes away most of the work from you, the setting up of a basic project, installing all the dependencies, creating the necessary runtime artifacts, and you develop in a way of database or a technology agnostic way. Technology agnostic way means suppose today you build an application which is perhaps using HANA as a database, and tomorrow let's say you feel that HANA is very expensive for me, and maybe I want to move out of HANA and I want to keep my data maybe into a PostgreSQL. So in that case, what you can do is you can come out of HANA and you can plug your CAPM project without any maintenance on the PostgreSQL database. Yes. So that is where you're going to get a great benefit by adopting CAPM technology. So you are not abstracted from the underlying layers through CAPM SDK, and you will develop in a way which is safe for the future investments. So that's the main advantage. So as the definition says, it's a framework which offers you different programming languages. You can use Node.js or Java, and it's completely based on core data and services. The CDS is the main definition, both for design time and runtime. Then we have language support. You can use JS, Java, and other open source languages because Cloud Foundry supports variety of runtimes like Python or Golang. Then you can use different libraries which are offered out of the box. We have a very powerful library called at the rate SAP CDS, which is the main library we use as part of CAPM projects to build our artifacts, to deploy our artifacts, along with the CDS development kit for developers, which you can use to kind of expedite your development. Then we have tools which includes Business Application Studio, and for local development you can use the VS Code. Okay, so that is what the benefit you get out of the box from the CAPM. So it will give you a proven golden path for developing applications. So throughout this training, we're going to focus more on CAPM, but at the same time, we will also focus on building an application which is of freestyle kind as well. So we will have both mix of CAPM plus non-CAPM development covered as part of this training. Now let's look at what do we see today. So what do we got today for you? So last year, the whole world was crippled with coronavirus, and at the beginning of this year, majority of the countries have started vaccinating their citizens. So I thought, why not to also bring a similar example for you to build a very simple CAPM based application in cloud, which can be accessed anywhere in the world and which utilizes the COVID-19 vaccine data. So what all the steps we see now? We will start with our development tool, which is so-called SAP Business Application Studio. Then in step 2, we will look at how to initialize and set up your first project and create a database table which is going to store the data of COVID-19 vaccine. Then we will see how to expose this data out through building a service, which is an OData service. And finally, in the last step, we will see how to annotate our entities to build a Fury application out of that. And all of that in next 15 to 20 minutes before we start question and answers. So what are we waiting for? Let's move to the system. So in my next class, I'm going to cover the basics of Cloud Foundry architecture and organization, like what is a global account, what is a sub account, what is an entitlement, what is a dev space, what is an application runtime, what are the different services and offerings we have, what is the reason. All of that I'm going to cover in our next session. But today's session, I assume that it's a demo. So you would want it to see something more interesting into the session, how we develop application from scratch. So that's our goal basically in this demo session. So don't be overwhelmed if it is getting too much for you perhaps, but just understand that this is just a demo so that we can kickstart this training here. So now what I'm going to do is I will go back to my Cloud Foundry account. Okay, so this is my SAP Cloud platform or business technology platform trial account, which is what I will be using throughout this training. And once we log in here, we are going to get here a development tool right on the front screen. And that's the new development tool, which is the successor of Web IDE. If you have worked on Web IDE, this is the successor of Web IDE, which is what predominantly you will be using throughout nowadays for developing any kind of applications into the cloud. So here we start always with a dev space. A dev space is nothing but it's a ready to use environment for developer with all the tools automatically or pre-installed for your development. You can create right now in trial 2 dev spaces, and you can have different choice of development. You can develop a native HANA application, you can develop mobile or a Fiori application, or of course our cloud based application using CAPM. So I have used the CAPM based application for developing, and what you get out of the box is this CDS tooling and graphical modeling. We'll see this in the session. Then we get Fiori application option and database explorer along with Java tools, MTA tools. A lot of these tools you get already pre-configured in a dev space. So a dev space is like a virtual machine spinning into the cloud where you get everything pre-installed, configured for you, ready to use. As a developer, remember, a developer do not have to focus on setting up things. As a developer, your main goal is to focus on application and the data rather than how it is being set up. So now I'll switch over to my dev space, which is called CAPM here, and this is where this is our main development area where we start building application. So in this, now I'm going to create a project. A project is essentially nothing but a folder. Yeah. So now what we'll do is we go to terminal and we just check what are all the directories currently available for my system. So I'll just do ls command, list me the directories, and I can see there's a project directory. So I'm going to switch it to the projects directory, and at the same time I can say open workspace and please open this project directory as a workspace. So a workspace is how it is different from a dev space. A workspace is nothing but a folder in a computer, and this folder perhaps contain all the files and folders and project artifacts which you are designing. So that's what a workspace is all about. So now switch over to workspace, and now let me create a new project. So I'll name it as mkdir, make a new directory with a name called first CAPM. Press enter, and now you can see a project directory has been created. Now I can jump over to this project directory, and I'm inside the directory now. So right now it's empty. You can see there is nothing into it. Now, as a developer, you might have thought about what could be the right project structure. What are all the artifacts I'm going to create? I will have some Fiori application. I will have a database table. I will have services. So what CAPM does, it gives you a proven path, for a golden path for development and structuring your project. So you don't spend much of time on structuring or the skeleton of your project. So that's where we have a built-in command line, which is called CDS command. You can use CDS command to generate the project skeleton out of the box. So we put in the CDS init command, and in a second you will see the moment I type in, a project skeleton is created out of the box. Wow, amazing. Look at that. So right now it doesn't have anything inside. Of course, it has created an app folder for keeping your UI related artifacts, a database DB folder to keep your database related artifacts, and a SRV folder to keep your service related artifacts. And if you go to this package JSON, you can see all the dependencies, the project name, project structure, all the required files, profiles, which you will need to develop an application are pre-configured for you. So as a developer, you are not spending too much of time to find out what are all I need for developing. It generates the basic project skeleton for you. Now, those who are new to Node.js, don't worry. We are going to cover basics of Node.js as part of our training. So essentially, it's a Node.js project what you got here. So if you're absolutely new to Node.js, really don't worry about it. we are going to cover Node.js also as part of this training. You could be an absolute fresher on Node.js, you will be learning it. You don't know Java, it's absolutely fine. You may be from ABAP background, no problem. You're going to learn also the Java basics as well as the Node.js basics as part of this training. For now, in the demo, I will proceed assuming that this is just a demo. So let me go ahead and create a new database object here. So basically, as I mentioned, it's already, and everything is based out of core data and services, which is the abstraction on top of your database layer. So I will go ahead and create a new file here, and I'm going to name it as data model .cds. So CDS is primary extension for almost everything you do in CAPM. So I click on OK, and that's my design time artifact. At runtime, what will happen is this CDS will get converted to equivalent SQL statement automatically by the CAPM framework. So that is what CAPM does for you. So today, if you're running on a PostgreSQL database, it converts it to a PostgreSQL commands. If you run on HANA database, then it is going to convert a HANA database command. Now, what I want to also use is a database. And for now, I'm going to use a very lightweight database called SQLite database. So I will get that SQLite database installed on my project right away. So let me go back and use a command here to install a SQLite database. So npm install a SQLite database I want to install. So now I'm installing a very small lightweight database as part of my project. So that will also be added as a dependency to my project. Okay, so that now when I develop a table, that table will be created inside that lightweight database. It's just for local testing. Now I will go to my file, and here is where I will give a namespace, and I'll give my namespace as, let's say, anubhav.database, anubhav.db. That's my namespace. So namespace is mainly to make your artifacts unique across, and I will save this file. I'm not touching anything. And what you see at the bottom here is this CAPM data model and services. Just move it little up. And now you see here this anubhav.db namespace CDS artifact. You just right click and say open with CDS graphical modeler. Perhaps this is one thing nobody will show you in their trainings or the demos. Wow, amazing. This is a full graphical tool which you get here, which you can utilize to create database tables, reusable types. Like if you're familiar with ABAP, in SE11 you can go and model your tables and views. Similarly, you can use this graphical tool to build your database table. So let me create a new database table. Yes, so I'm going to name this database table as, for example, Covaxin, and I'll say create. So I've got a database table. Now I would want to go back and create a table, and I would read the column names perhaps from my Excel file, so that later on the same Excel data I would like to import into my database table. So you can see it's country. So let me go ahead and add a new field called country, and I would want country to be the key of, let's say, string 80 or string 120. Click on add. I've got my first field, database field added. So this is the design time definition of your database table. Then I have a date. It will be part of my composite primary key. So let's choose it as date. Next, I want to add here total vaccinations which have been done by far, and I'll say integer 64. Next one is fully vaccinated people count, integer 64 again, not as a key of course. And then we use daily vaccinations, add, and finally I would want the vaccine names. So that's going to be a string of 100. Nice, awesome. So you've got a beautiful database table called Covaxin, and this database table, the moment I will save and deploy my CDS, system is going to build or generate SQL commands like create table command automatically behind the scene, and it's going to deploy that to my local DB as in my SQLite database. So let me save this artifact first, and now I will go back to my command line to deploy this to the system. But before I do that, let me also create a CSV folder. And now I'm going to drag and drop this Excel file which I have, which has some dummy data or demo data, not demo data, is a real data actually, which I've got from one of my medical's friend. So I will drag this and drop it on my CSV folder. Now watch out the magic. What CAPM does, it checks if my database table has same name, Covaxin, Covaxin, and my namespace is also same. So you see anubhav.db dash Covaxin. The moment I deploy, it is also going to insert the data from my Excel sheet inside my database table automatically. So wow. So let me go ahead and see that in a minute. But before that, let me also go ahead and create a service so that we can test this immediately. So I'm going to go back to SRV node and create a new file called my service dot CDS again. So CDS plays a very critical role. It generates all the runtime artifacts, and every time you develop something, the design time artifact is CDS. So now here I will say I would like to use, so you see complete source code completion IntelliSense is also available for you to utilize the concepts. And now I will say I would want to reuse my database table which I've just created from my data model. Yes, and let me name it as Anubhav dot db as, and I will use as my model. Yes, so that's what I will use it as a alias name for my namespace. And now I can reference any database table to generate a service out of the box. So I'll say service, my service, and then I will just mention what is that I want to expose out of this service. And I will say I want to expose an entity, and this entity is a name of the entity. I can name it as Covaxin, and this is a projection on my existing table from my model, and the name of my database table is control space code completion, and wow, you can see the name of my table. So system is going to generate a service. Perhaps I don't like this name called my service. I want to give a different name to my service. I can use an annotation called path annotation, and I can say, hey, keep this service name called SRV slash catalog service. Yes, and I will save this. And let me go ahead and first deploy everything. So deployment means all the necessary database artifacts will convert to SQL statement. All the necessary service artifacts converts to an OData service accordingly. So I'm going to go back and run a deploy command, CDS deploy to SQLite database. Yes, anubhav.db. And oops, there is a problem here. Cannot find SQLite. Okay, let me check npm install. Let me again install the module. So maybe I missed installing, and let me try now. Deploying. Oops. CDS deploy to SQLite. Let me install the module globally. And we check the package JSON for dependencies. Yes, it's there. It should work. There's a problem here in deployment. CDS deploy. There is something wrong. You can also check all the commands here just by typing CDS help, and you can see all the list of commands available here. So let me just choose this deploy command, and I would like to just check CDS deploy. It's not finding my database. Am I in the right project structure? Yes, I am in the right project structure. CDS. Okay, let me remove this dependency on this database which I've already installed, and I will just save it, and let me just say CDS init again. No, CDS deploy npm install -g, and I say our SQLite database. So I'm trying to install a database locally within my project on which I would deploy my database tables. So that is what I'm trying to do. CDS deploy. There is some problem in this. It's not working. Let me just type CDS init again. Okay, let me do one thing quickly. I will just go ahead and try to install the CDS dependency again. And I just call npm init command. So basically I'm running an npm install command to see all the required dependencies should get added to my project. So let's try now. CDS deploy /2 SQLite. Yes, wow, it works. So there was a problem in the dependencies. So now once I install all the required dependencies, my deployment is successful. So what can you expect? What happened is this database table would have got created, and also now I would have got the data inside my database table. Finally, I have got here a SQLite DB, as you can see, which is my database. And now I can run a CDS run command to start my project. Basically, the moment I start, it's going to start my OData service connecting to my database, table, and that database table persists in my in-memory SQLite database, which is a lightweight database in my project itself. It's a file system based database. Okay, so let's run CDS run command. And now you can see it has started a OData service with the same address what I've given in the path. And if you say open, then you can just give us name, first CAPM, enter, and wow, you get an endpoint, you get your first service started. And you can see I can click on the service to see entity sets, and I pick up my entity set name to put name, and wow, you can see all my demo data which I've uploaded is now available from the OData service. This is a V4 OData service, version 4, latest version. Out of the box system generates, and one nice thing you get is out of the box this Fiori preview. So it created a Fiori application also for you out of the box, which you can use to preview the data right away of uh, Covaxin data basically. Now, this OData service can be used to build all sorts of Fiori element application, which we will also experience throughout our training. We can also use the similar same CAPM architecture to use SAP's Node.js based cloud application SDK, which can help you to consume the data for S4 HANA with using APIs. And now we got a beautiful application created out of the box on our screen. And the search also works out of the box. You can search India and you see it's showing India. Now maybe I want to go back and check, let's say Pfizer. Yes, so you can see Pfizer Biotech. Let's say I want to search a number, for example, let's say a number I want to add. I can also do that. So this is a simple application which is up and running within just 20 to 30 minutes into the cloud. That's the power of cloud application programming model. Of course, that's just an overview of CAPM. There is a lot of concepts behind the scene, including as well the security concepts. How do you secure your data in CAPM? That is what we will be looking at. So this was a brief demo from my end. Before I resume to Q&A, let me quickly cover an overview of what we are going to see in next 40 hours. So in this next 40 hours of training, we will divide it into 4 phases. In phase 1, we will start with the architecture of Cloud Foundry more in detail and business technology platform, how to set up your BTP account, create spaces, quotas, create use dev tools, different dev tools, prepare dev tools by installing necessary plugins and dependencies, how to configure GitHub accounts, how to work with CI/CD pipelines using build tools like Maven, NPM, and Jenkins. Then in phase 2, we will talk about Spring and Spring Boot framework to build microservices. We will talk about how to use Spring Boot scaffolding to generate Spring Web projects and microservice projects, including CURD operations. Then we will talk about how to connect to PostgreSQL from a Spring Boot application to perform all the CURD queue operations, including also HDI on Cloud Foundry. How do you use SAP HANA as a service in Cloud Foundry to connect from your Java-based Spring project and deploy that on CF as a native cloud application, plus the security. The phase 3, we will talk about the basics of what is Node.js, starting with what is Node.js, how to use Node.js, what is Express. Express is a framework on top of Node.js. We're going to talk about that. Then we will see how to secure your Cloud Foundry application using Access UAA, which is a authentication authorization service part of Cloud Foundry, and how does the app router can be configured along with Access UAA, and how do they work in sync to pass JOT token and OAuth token authentication. Then we'll talk about VCAP services, which is a very important environment variable which you need to bind to seek the database services which are running in the cloud, including destination services and backing services. We will talk about in phase 4 our CAPM, Cloud Application Programming Model and CDS concept, the complete CAPM training with services, annotations, security, roles, role templates, scopes, configuring the Fiori UIs with Business Application Studio, and then finally building an S4HANA extension using S4HANA Cloud SDK with Node.js. So overall, you can see the topic-wise CAPM, BTP, Spring Boot, microservice architecture, security concepts, Node.js, HDI, Docker, CI/CD, MTA, and Git. All of this will be part of a full stack. If you're looking for ABAP on cloud, subscribe my ABAP on cloud. This course doesn't cover ABAP. Okay, so we will be learning how to build freestyle applications using CAPM, as well as building applications using templates on top of CAPM. You can see the logo for Cloud Foundry, Spring, Node.js, Git, HANA, Jenkins, microservices, VS Code. We will also learn how to configure local environment for developing CAPM application locally in your local machine. Yes, you can use VS Code locally to develop CAPM applications, and also the PostgreSQL and also the Node.js based SDK. So I have VS Code already in my local machine, and I can develop the same thing which I just did on Bash. I can do it right away here on my local machine, and I can fully run. Let me show you this application which I have. For example, CAPM 2, and then okay, so I say NCAPM 2. So let me just do a CDS run here, and you will see now the same application runs on my local machine. Yeah, so that's something which I can directly do this on my local computer. Okay, there's some problem in this right now, but you can run a service as well as everything locally in your local machine. So that is what, how do you do that? How do you use VS Code to set up local project? How do you connect to the cloud services? How do you deploy this finally to GitHub and use these things on Business Application Studio? So both local as well as the development in Bash, we are going to discuss as part of this training. Lot of different tools you are going to learn in throughout this journey, throughout this process, and you can easily then become a solution architect to provide guidance to your company, what kind of solutions and synergies you can make out with SAP Cloud Platform. So with that, it's a wrap on this demo session. Thank you so much as usual for taking your time and being part of this demo session. To join this training, feel free to drop us an email on contact@unboardtrainings.com. With that, we are signing out. In our next class starts day after tomorrow, which is Wednesday evening, same time, India time, 7 p.m. So tomorrow is an off, and from Wednesday, we are going to start this batch regularly for 1 hour on daily basis on weekdays, and total duration will be 40 hours, which we will cover through in next course of 2 months. So with that, thank you so much once again. And now I hand over
Uh,
to you guys